Streaming's working, our recording's not working. Interesting.
New kid in town, author, lecturer, and nutritional supplement guru Adam Harman. For the next hour, he'll be unleashing the power of natural medicine and conscious living. So listen up, America. It's the Adam Harman Show.
Ooh, we are back. We're back on the air. And we're here to have an amazing show with you. Tonight, it's all about numerology. That's right. And how these numbers affect you and your future. Our guest today is one of California's most sought-after numerologists. For more than 20 years, Josh Siegel has helped thousands of people transform their lives with his breakthrough system of numerology. Within minutes, and I mean minutes, Josh can penetrate core issues and give instant clarity to people's questions. You know, he's been featured in History Channel's hit series Decoded. Josh is also an expert who's been called on by the Los Angeles Times, CBS News, Fox News, ABC Worldwide News. I bet the Pope called this guy. Oh, my goodness. He's currently working on a new book, The Josh Code, to enlighten people across the globe. Well, Josh Siegel, welcome to the Adam Harman Show.
Well, thank you, Adam.
You know, I'm so glad that you're on our show here. I have so many questions for you. I mean, basically, how did you get involved in numerology and then become one of California's most sought-after numerologists?
Well, it's a good question. It's a very good question.
We're
how that
expecting a
happened.
good answer, darn it.
Well, I'll try to give you one.
There we go.
You know, look, I didn't grow up in a spiritual family or a New Age family or even an alternative family. My mother actually was a professor at UCLA, and father was an attorney.
My goodness.
These were old Jews.
There we go.
And
some starched shirts here,
yeah,
too.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And so a lot of, academia and, research and healthy dosage of skepticism. But I think inherently, just innately as a person, I was interested in, explaining life from a different perspective. I believed that there was something more than what I was seeing, and it made me, investigate if there was something else, some kind of mysterious knowledge or force behind life. I didn't believe things were just a random experience. And however, I was still my mother's son. Mm-hmm. And so that caused me to look for answers that were provable. I'm kind of where spirituality and science meet.
Right.
And I believe that if something works and it can be proven to work time and time and time again, with rigorous testing, that it becomes valid. Right. And so, there's this old saying, which I always butcher, for those who believe no evidence is required, and for those that disbelieve, no evidence will suffice. And there's people that, there's people that believe a lot of things that some other people might find cockamamie and ridiculous. There's no basis for it. And then there's people that are exposed to evidence that just doesn't fit their narrow view of how things should be, and they won't accept it. I'm what I call an actual true skeptic in the sense that I actually investigate, and if something works, even though it doesn't necessarily fit into conventional thinking, I take it as something that works. Right. And I found at the basis of all my research, and this is 25 years, and I searched all over. When I say all over, I studied comparative religion, mythology, mysticism. My mother was good friends with the
That's why we have you on the show. We were looking for just something amazing here. Dovey, that's why we have him here, right?
Exactly.
All right, you're on the hot seat, guy.
I guess so.
Yeah.
So anyways, to make a long story short, like I said, I was about to tell you that my mother was friends with Joseph Campbell, the great writer in mythology.
Of course.
And a lot of luminaries of our time. And I found at the basis of all my studies that all spiritual teachings, all religious doctrines, at the core basis of them use numbers to describe their most secret and most valid teachings. And that this is, ubiquitous across the spectrum everywhere. And so I said, well, gee, if that's the case, if the universe really is based on this numerical pattern, wouldn't human beings be based on the numerical pattern too? And look, we've got DNA strands, and scientists have mapped the human DNA, right? Mm-hmm. And it's actually an actual numerical system. And it turns out from my research over 22 years that we are actually born with a numerical, psychological, spiritual DNA.
Wow.
And that it works, it's provable, and I've helped literally tens of thousands of people with it.
That's pretty amazing. You know, the way you're talking about this must have quite a history to it. You know, how old is numerology? Can you tell us a little bit about the history?
Well, you know, it's so funny. You know, I do not consider myself a New Ager, although I have nothing wrong with the moniker, but I don't consider myself one. But it's when we talk about New Age, this knowledge is millennia. It's thousands of years old.
Ah,
It's a millennia year old. It's like this idea of it being new, a New Age thing. It's like literally, you know, pre-Judaism, pre-Christianity, of course, and it dates back thousands of years to ancient Egypt. You know, the Chaldeans, you know, the Indians, you know, and the Hindu teachings in the earliest teachings.
right.
And it would seem to me that these earlier wise men looked up at the heavens and they looked at the world around them, and they started to categorize natural phenomenon, okay, the seasons, the stars, astrological movements, and they started to measure these things, right? And they started to see patterns.
Yeah.
And they started saying, wait a minute, there's something going on here. There is an intelligence to the way the world and the universe works. And that's when numbers, I think, which are the prime sort of symbols of thought
Yeah.
and category, they started to see that there was an order to the universe. And that's where I think it all stemmed from. And they started to, if you want to call it, infuse their belief systems with numbers. And they started seeing that numbers were sort of the language of the gods. Or
Wow.
God, if you believe it that way.
There we go. Wow, that's pretty amazing. I mean, when it comes to numerology, I first learned about this whole thing called life path numbers.
Oh, yeah.
I know, you know, I say life path numbers, and you got this little giggle in the back of your yourself, because I once sat there and I listened to you speak to somebody in the back of Mystic Journeys bookstore, and they said, well, what about my life path number? And you said, honey, that's such a small chunk of the iceberg. You know, can you tell me about life path numbers? How do you calculate them? And are they the be-all and end-all, or what else goes into this whole thing for numerology?
So, well, in the same manner that sun sign astrology, where you just use a person's sun sign, isn't the totality of an actual horoscope.
Right.
I mean,
Yes.
most people are not aware that there's all these other planets and how they interact and the houses and so on and so forth. Human beings can't be so simplified over one number. Right. We're filled with all these idiosyncrasies and contradictions and things like that, right? You can't just specify a person's totality of themselves with one number. I'm not saying that the life path number, which is derived from your birth date, right?
You
And
can do
that's-
them from your name too, right?
Well, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
The name is actually the meat of the chart.
Really?
Every letter equals a number. And then the comparison to the name and the birth date together. And there's a series of numbers. I mean, when you see me do a chart, it looks like a beautiful mine on crystal. I mean, it's all crazy. But what I'm actually doing, you know, and I've done over 20,000 sessions.
That's a lot of sessions.
Wow.
What I'm doing is I'm looking at how all these numbers interact, what makes that special you. You know, that fingerprint that's only yours. I'm looking at how all these numbers make the interesting you, and how you have all these different various facets of you. Everyone is incredible to me.
Wow.
People, I say, oh, have you done celebrities? And they say, oh, yeah, I've done plenty of celebrities. Well, was that exciting? And I said, no, not really. Because it's not, that doesn't excite me. What excites me is a unique series of numbers. That could be anybody. That could be a housewife in Texarkana, you know? That could be this teenage girl down the block. It's people are all fascinating and interesting. They all have unique qualities, and you can't get that from one number.
My goodness. So how? I mean, just talking about life path numbers, how do you calculate those?
Right. So the proper way. I mean, one of the things I investigated was, you know, what is the proper way to calculate these numbers? Because different authors in different schools had different ways of doing it.
Right.
The proper way to calculate the life path number is adding your full birth month and full birth day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So mine's October. That's 10.
Right.
And I was born on the 12th.
Right.
And that's if you add those together, you're going to get 22.
Okay.
Right? And then I'm going to date myself. You're going to see how old I am. The year is then added all together. So I'm 1969, unfortunately. I'm like 97. So
You look like you're like 23, dude. Come on. If you're on YouTube right now, look up the Adam Harman Show on YouTube, and you can see this man. He looks like he's got the skin of a baby. Go ahead.
come on. So it's oil of Olay.
Ole.
So in my case, 1969, if you add that together, you get 25. Now, before I did 10 and 12. So whatever your month and day is, wherever you are right now, you can add your month, add the full month and day together. So mine's 22. And then I added my year, which is 1969, which added together is 25. And then you take those numbers together. So 22 and 25 is 47. So that's actually my life path number.
Wow.
Now, you're supposed to, traditionally, you add that down 4 and 7, make an 11. And then theoretically, 11 is 1 and 1 and 2.
Right.
And so the full number would be 47, 11, 2. But, there is some belief amongst some in the earlier numerologists that numbers like 11 and 22 and 33 are master numbers, and so you leave them alone. But that's another.
There we go. Well, we're gonna grill you some more here. We're heading into a news break, so don't touch that dial. We will be back with more of our conversation with Master Numerologist Josh Siegel.